Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to WDRBmedia, the voice of the community. My name is Doc Bowman. I am your host here on the show, Discover the Best You. Please tune in every Thursday at 2 p.m. So we had a very great topic last week in regards to the stigma of therapy, and we definitely wanted to continue it. And I am with my lady over here, Miss Darnita.
Hello. Welcome, everybody.
Very nice. Very nice. And thank you for coming on our show again.
No problem.
Yes. And so tell them a little bit about where to find you and who you are, and then we'll go right into the topic.
All right. So my name is Darnita Samuels. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist here in the University area, Charlotte. You can find me on the web at darnitasamuels.com, and that's D as in Deborah, A-R, N as in Nancy, T as in Tom, I'm sorry, D-A-R-N-I-T as in Tom, A, Samuels.com, or 919-807-1692.
Yes. So again, we were talking about the stigma of therapy, and we were just talking about, especially in the African American community, exactly why we have a problem going to a therapist. And so when we left off previously,
yes,
we were just saying that, what was the last sentence that I can't remember what we were talking about previously, but in regards to that, but I know you were just saying at the very end that it just basically just we see going to the therapist as being unhealthy.
Yeah, and the labels that we can get.
And the labels that we can get, exactly. So with that, I guess we'll continue from there in regards to those labels. How can we figure out how to change the dynamics or thinking?
Yeah. So the good thing is I think it is changing. I will say that the majority of my client base is African American or of African descent. Now, I do work with all populations, but they are the majority that make up my client base. The thing with stigmas is being able to move past the fear of labels, right? Of the perceptions and things like that. Also, because it's a fear of sometimes it's the unknown. I know what it's like to live dysfunctionally. I've done this, I've perfected it, I've got coping skills to live. I don't know what it's like to be happy. I don't know what it's like to be functional. That could be very scary for someone, because then am I going to give up the identity that I now established? Who am I going to be after that, right? So then we have those type of things. But then we also have this, well, if I look for somebody, will they look like me? I want somebody who will look like me, because I don't want to go into somebody's office who's going to judge me.
Right.
There are a lot of therapists of color. It's growing, I will say that. Certain fields are more saturated than others, but all fields overall are growing with therapists of color. Now, herein lies as well for Black men. There is a severe, this is me saying this, I feel like there is a lot of things tied to being a Black male, but then also being a Black male who is allowing himself to ask for help.
Yes.
So when they get to a point where they know they need help, sometimes they will ask, like, do you know somebody? Do you know somebody? Sometimes they come in, they have conversations and things like that. But it's more difficult. I'm not going to say impossible, but it has been more difficult to find a Black male therapist of color. Okay. And so they have websites for that. I believe one is blackmenheal.com. And they have an actual therapist directory of Black men. We can always go to Psychology Today to look for a Black male therapist who takes your health insurance as well. Okay.
Right.
And then also word of mouth, because other people are seeking therapy. And I will say this, that there are a lot of people who openly talk about what my therapist said. A lot of my clients literally they may text me and they may ask me a question like, hey, Darnita, I got a question for you. I'll respond and they'll say, well, my therapist told, this is what my therapist said, and they're like, okay, who? But breaking down the identities of who we are, what we've built, right? And also our past, right? We're not necessarily the most trusting group of people because of things that have happened to us, right? So a lot of times, for instance, we hear about PTSD a lot, right? But we don't hear about PTSS, which is post-traumatic slavery syndrome.
I was about to bring that up.
Okay. What you want to say?
That was interesting that you, in regards to that, a lot of people don't know what that is.
Right. And it's new. It's getting traction. Also, for people who are just interested in wanting to know how to heal and may feel as if they are not ready to start the therapy journey, because it is a choice and it's going to require a lot of work. Therapy is going to be the hardest, probably some of the hardest work you've ever done, because it's changing the way that you've presented in relationships, presented to the world, and the way you've thought, behaved, and acted. Okay.
Right.
But there is a Black Mental Health Symposium that happens every year. This year is actually going to be in Atlanta. You do not have to be a therapist to attend. You can actually go and attend and listen to some of the breakout sessions. And they do a lot of research around trauma in the Black community, because that's another thing. We have, there's a lot of trauma, right? And when I talk about trauma, we're talking about generations of rape.
Yes.
In the family.
And especially, I'm not going to say pedophiles, but
yes,
that basically that has a lot to do with it. You see that even in today, and a lot of that has been passed on from generation all the way down into slavery.
Yes.
And we don't know what it is. We think as a child, we think that is normal, but not realizing that that was done to them. And then to them, and then to them, and then to them, and it was all passed all the way down. Absolutely.
But even not necessarily normal, because they feel like it's wrong. But when they start to talk about it, because again, this is one of those things that stays in the house, right? When they start to talk about it, it happened to my mother, her sister, her brother, 5 of my cousins, 3 of my sisters. It happens, and they don't get addressed.
Right.
So then it becomes this situation where, well, why do I matter? Because this person did this to me anyway, and nobody protected me.
Right.
So we carry on the baggage of that, right? And so who wants to say that? Thinking about a Black male, who wants to say that somebody's been touching them?
Right.
Right. And so it's that thing of the labels that we come with, the fear of being judged, because is this person going to really identify with me, and how will they be able to help me? Right. Also, do they really know what they're going to be talking about? Right. Because we really do want to make sure that the person is really going to be helping us. We're not just telling our business, right? But have somebody to give, fodder for thought,
So I was going to say, I remember, I think now that we're older, people become more open to you. And now that what I am, people from my past I had dated, I still remain friends with them. And surprisingly, with those different ones that have opened up with me, I've been surprised of the things that had happened to them when they were kids. And they actually tell me about it now that we're older adults, and and explained why their relationships were the way they were.
Yes.
And at this point, it's just a good thing that, again, that stigma is starting to go away.
Yes.
Where a lot of these males are actually wanting to get help, and they are going to therapy. And I think it's fantastic. And I think a lot of it has to do, like, even with Prince Harry.
Yes.
And he went to therapy. He talks about it. Even when we saw the situation with R. Kelly, we're starting to see, like, whoa, I've seen, or I was in a household like that.
Yes.
And now we're starting to understand, and it's putting it out there into the media for people to understand it a lot better.
And even thinking about, I know you said, Prince Harry, but let's talk about Charlemagne the God. He has been very vocal about his journey through therapy and how things have changed him. And also other people who have gone through therapy and, know the transformative power that it can have if you're dedicated to doing the work, right? And so that's the thing. If we get more people like that who talk about it, and actually consult.
He talked about that in his book too,
and all his interviews he has interviews with T.D. Jakes and a couple other people, even Pastor Stephen Furtick. He talked about it with. But he's been very vocal, and there's been other Black people who have been very vocal about their journey.
Absolutely,
and so it breaks it down. And I know even when we're talking about this self-care thing, because a lot of times we were kind of, we just went along with things. Meaning. Life was happening. We just had to stay up. We had to stay up with it, right? And so we didn't give ourselves that time to just sit down, take inventory, and check ourselves out,
Absolutely.
right? So now it's this thing of, when Oprah came out, living my best life and everything, it became a cliche, but it's so true. Even self-care is becoming a cliche, but people are doing it.
It's a good thing.
It is. And so
it's a trend that's becoming, it's giving permission to take care of yourself.
Right.
Right.
And so I'm glad that people are actually listening to that, because they are freeing themselves from all these burdens of the past that they have no point of reference or experience about, but yet they've been indoctrinated to carry it forward, right? And so we talk about, we want a healthier life, right? We want to live our best life. We want to do these things. This is one of the ways.
Right.
So when we're talking about a wellness check, mental health is one of the most, pertinent things in that wellness.
Absolutely.
Because if your mind is not in it and it's not there, it's not clear, I don't know what else is going to follow.
Well, let me ask you,
Sure.
What is the best way of trying to find the right kind of therapist? Because there's different kind of therapists, and then on top of that, you got ones that specialize in certain things. Like you can go to therapy, but I didn't know they had therapists that specialize in narcissism.
Yes.
That has to diagnose that.
Yes.
Yeah. So So then, because you just can't just go to a therapist.
Yes.
Because even people who are narcissistic, they know how to manipulate so well that some therapists cannot pick up on it.
Yes.
So
very true.
They have to have a therapist specifically for that. Even when they have therapists affiliated with court, they have to pick certain ones that specialize in certain things, just for people who have some kind of schizophrenia.
Yes.
So how do you go about finding the right therapist for the right thing that you may need, or even that you may not even know the right therapist that you might need?
And okay, so you bring a lot into this. So you are absolutely right, because there are a lot of therapists who specialize, right? You have trauma-informed therapists. You have some that are LGBTQ,
right?
Specializing. So basically, there are times where people get additional certifications. They go for additional trainings, right? Because what you don't want to do is you don't want to go into a room. You have no point of reference to provide care, right? But this person is coming to you specifically for that.
Right.
Then they need to look for certain specializations. So when you're on, for instance, Therapy for Black Girls, that's a website. A lot of times people will list out their specialties and then also their trainings.
That's good.
And so with that, substance abuse. That's another one. So you may want to have somebody who is either a LCAS, which is a licensed clinical addiction specialist, or a CSAC. So they all do addictions. Right. So basically trying to figure out, okay, what are you looking for? If you want to know, if you're looking for a therapist by culture or race, you can sort it out. Or you can go to specific websites that, gear towards a specific culture or race. Then you look at their specializations, right? Read their profiles. If you don't get a good feel for the therapist, or if it's a maybe, put it in a maybe category. Go to the next one. So you can kind of line them up and say, okay, well, these are the first ones. I feel really good about what I read. Now I'm going to see if I can get a consultation. I personally do consultations, okay, because it's 20 minutes that can save myself and a potential client a lot of time going through a session, and we get to the end and we figure out we're not a good fit for one another. And so during that time in a consultation, it is actually the potential client's opportunity to interview me.
That's good.
So they can ask me questions about my background, my point of reference with therapy, why I got into therapy, what my specializations are, things like that. In that, sometimes you can get a feel for if you are working with a personality disorder. Again, I do not work with narcissistic people. And so that would be one of those things where I would be like, no, I can't work with you, but I will refer you to someone else in the community that you may fit with. Right. And so otherwise, sometimes you come in and it's like this thing where you're feeling a lot, away in the session. And then you get to the end and you're like, I don't think so.
Wow.
Well,
I hope you all learned a lot today. So thank you for coming on.
problem.
To again, tell them how to find you.
Sure. Again, DarnitaSamuels.com or 919-807-1692.
Well, thank you for coming on. Again, I hope you guys learned a lot. We're going to be bringing on a life coach, a transformation coach, if you don't realize there is a difference.
Yep.
And we'll definitely bring you back onto the show again.
I look forward to it.
And again, this is Doc Bowman here, Discover the Best You, here on WDRB Media, the voice of the community. Tune in every Thursday at 2 p.m.